This is Talk with the Times at the Loudoun Times-Mirror in Leesburg, Virginia.
Hello and welcome to Talk with the Times. I'm your host, David D'Onofrio. Joining me today is government reporter Crystal Owens of the Loudoun Times-Mirror. Crystal, thank you for being here. We're talking about the budget this week once again, and Crystal's going to give us a quick recap, and joining us shortly will be Sandy Sullivan and Greg Stone to discuss the role of the school budget. But Crystal, let's start right in on what happened this past week. There were public input sessions over at the county building and at the school board.
Right.
What did the supervisors hear from the public about the budget?
Well, they heard pretty much half and half. Half was from the school supporters wanting to make sure that they got their money, and the other half was from the community programs that were going to be cut, the mental health programs, 4-H. Library was a big one too. There was a lot of supporters for the library, which is facing probably some of the biggest cuts right now.
Somewhere in that half and half, there was a small minority of folks talking about no more raising tax, or to stop raising the taxes,
Right,
and to
right.
reconsider the budget. How many folks would you estimate had that message?
It was probably half and half. The supervisors right now have a big decision on their hands because something's going to have to give. They can't have all program cuts and no taxes increased.
Yeah.
It's going to be one or the other. And unfortunately, right now, what it's looking like is they're going to have a tax increase and program cuts. There's no way around it.
There's no way around it. And these are tough economic times,
Yeah.
certainly. And the board's reaction has been to look at this budget and figure out exactly what.
Right.
That's the situation, that something's going to have to go up and something's going to have to go down, and somewhere in the middle of what they're talking about right now.
Yeah, they've been sort of outspoken about what's going on, I guess. You've got Supervisor Burton, who has been very strong with let's not increase the tax rate at all. And you've got others who are like, hey, we've got to do this, there's no way around it. So it's going to be interesting when it comes down to see what the final decision is.
Well, there is a slight little bit of good news out there in the Loudoun Times-Mirror this week. Your article talks about what's going on down in Richmond as far as the state budget and how that impacts our education budget and our dollars here in Loudoun County.
Right.
What's the good news down there?
Actually, we're getting more money than we anticipated. The House is looking at, it was about $20 million more than what they anticipated over Governor McDonald's budget, and the Senate's actually asking for $31 million more.
Well, certainly I don't think anybody in Loudoun County is going to reject more money from
No,
Richmond
no,
this time
no.
of the year. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us. This has been Talk with the Times, and I'm your host, David D'Onofrio. Hello, and welcome back to Talk with the Times. I'm joined today by Ms. Sandy Sullivan, the president of the Loudoun Education Association, and Greg Stone, a Sterling resident and activist. Ms. Sullivan, let's start off. We're talking obviously about the budget, and certainly the schools are the major aspect of the Loudoun County budget. The budget cuts that they're talking about right now, or the budget cycle that we're going through, what are the impacts that they're having on the schools, the classrooms themselves?
Well, one of the biggest impacts is on class size. There currently in this school cycle, there's at least an average of one child more per class, which makes a big difference. I taught for 16 years, so I know one more body in a classroom makes a huge difference in terms of meeting the needs of students. Another thing is this current year is reduction in the sub-budget, so there's not as much funding for teachers to take their leave that they have earned and as part of their benefit. It's also just requiring, it currently is and will require teachers and employees to do more with less. And there's going to be 3,400 new students coming into the county, so that just adds on to what needs to be done. And we're seeing employees, some being forced to take part-time jobs, and I can see that certainly increasing in the next year, so having less time to devote to schools.
Greg, what are we seeing some of our neighbors in Fairfax and Prince William County doing and through this process? They're obviously going through the same economic hardships and have lots of influx of students as well. What are you seeing those folks doing with their budgets?
Well, I mean, the economic reality, is hitting them all in the face simultaneously, regardless of where they are in the Washington metro area. I mean, if you look at what's been reported, let's say in the last 2 or 3 weeks with regard to Prince William County and Fairfax County, both of those counties are going to have to cut their educational budgets. They're going to have to cut their budgets all together. But Prince William County is looking at about a 3% reduction this year. There's going to be about 700 jobs, if I'm not mistaken, if I read the reports properly. Fairfax County is talking about reducing staff by 600 positions. So it seems that everybody's gotten the memo here locally, except for Loudoun County. Most of the local jurisdictions know that the tough economic times we're in, we have a different dynamic. We have to do things differently, and for whatever reason, Loudoun County seems to be slow.
The school board has come forward, and Dr. Hattrick has come forward with a budget to the board of an increase in 5%.
Actually less than that.
A little bit less than that?
1.4%.
1.4%, okay. How is that tenable in your mind in this current budget situation, and does that at all cover the costs and the needs of Loudoun County children?
No, I don't believe Dr. Hattrick put forth a needs-based budget this year. He had to do less than that, and that's not what he's required to do. He went less than that because of the economic times. I think part of the reason it's tenable is this county has grown accustomed to the powerful school system that they have in terms of what they're able to provide for their students and their children. So they have this very high quality system, and there'll be taxpayers not willing to pull back on that and see potential reductions in all parts of the budget. And once certain programs and items are removed from a budget, they're very difficult, if possible at all, to get back. So that's part of what makes it something that's crucial that we have to do. And people have been speaking out that that's what they'd like to see, that they want to see the schools supported. That's what businesses want to do. It's one of the top reasons, one of the top 2 reasons a business would want to locate here is for high quality schools.
Greg, in your opinion, is 1.4% or any increase in the school budget tenable in these economic situations?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would be one of those voices that would be calling them to cut the budget in Loudoun County, and I would cut it, and frankly, I would cut it severely. Let me tell you why. This didn't happen overnight. It's taken a long time for us to get where we're at right now. But as far as I'm concerned, Dr. Hattrick, the school board, the teachers union, and to some extent the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors has mixed wants and needs, and they've gotten confused over the years. And so those things that the school system absolutely needs are one thing, but those things that you would like to have now become needs in their eyes. And so this budget has gotten so huge, so large, and frankly, it is untenable to think that we can continue from an economic standpoint in going in this direction. There's between 70 and 75% of the money that gets spent in Loudoun County gets spent in schools.
But are there ways to simultaneously keep the budget in check and still meet the needs of the children in the classroom?
Obviously, that's the school board's job. I think getting down into the weeds, frankly, from a macroeconomic standpoint, is I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's a bit silly at this juncture. What we should be doing is we should tell the school board, this is how much money you get, this is how much of the budget you're going to occupy, and you guys do the best possible job you can with the available funds. What happens on the front side is we get too caught up in all of the different programs in the schools, and we don't move that ball down the court.
To say, I believe that's exactly what will happen when allocation is made. It will be up to the supervisor, the school board, to decide how those funds are allocated in whatever budget items they see fit.
Is there a way? Are there other creative ways? You're seeing other counties and other places doing things differently, but are there ways somehow to still fit the small or a reduced amount of budget and still not impact the children in the classroom? I guess that's everybody's goal ultimately in this process.
I'm not sure I see that's possible, and I think part of the big sticking point we have now is the lack of a tax increase last year, so that the higher tax rate that's being proposed now really does, untenable seems to be that word, because of the big increase. But if there had been some more increase last year, this year we wouldn't have been facing such a big increase potentially.
In your opinion, do you think Loudouners are ready to bite off a big tax increase this year?
I have found that there's lots of support.
Okay, I'll give you the last word.
I would say no, absolutely not. The tax increase, the rate increase last year was 9%. The rate increase taking us to $1.40 this year will mean that over the last 2 budget cycles, Loudoun County government has raised the tax rate 23% in a 24-month period. That's almost 1% per month. We cannot continue going in that direction. You can't do it.
Well, I certainly know I don't want to be a supervisor or a member of the school board right now faced with this situation. I'm sure we will continue this debate and this discussion. Ms. Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Stone, thank you.
David?
This has been Talk with the Times, and I'm your host, David D'Onofrio, at the new LoudounTimes.com.